Hey, what's up guys? I hope you're having a great day. This video is a reaction about a movie entitled Amish Grace. This movie is based on a real-life event of a gunman having to murder 5 Amish children and injured 5 more in an Amish school in Pennsylvania. Directed by Dylan Starping, this movie is about a man named Charlie Robert who happens to seek revenge on God by murdering 5 children and injuring 5 more, due to the tragedy of her daughter dying the day she was born. One of the daughter murdered was Mary Beth Graber. Her mother, Ida Graber, had a rough time accepting the heartbreaking tragedy of losing her daughter, while Gideon Graber, her husband, had already accepted the tragedy and moved on. It did take time, but eventually Ida's heart had softened and had reconnected with her husband and her community. This leads to Ida forgiving the man who killed her daughter. Not to mention, even treated the killer's widow with compassion and kindness. So that's pretty much the summary of the movie entitled Amish Grace. So what was the valuable lesson that this movie was trying to teach us? It's all about forgiveness. What it really takes to forgive, to accept what had already happened and move on. This movie had showed us the real meaning of acceptance and forgiveness. In modern society, you gotta admit that it's not that easy to forgive, especially when something you really hate is done unto you. And we've all been there, because most of the time, hatred comes first in our heart and mind. Thus, contradicts acceptance, and if there's no acceptance, the chances of forgiveness is pretty much zero. But take your God as your own example. He gave up His own Son in order to free us from the imprisonment we all should have been stuck with. We didn't deserve salvation, and yet God had offered it to us. Had His one and only Son through a lot of suffering, and that's forgiveness. It is not always about being fair. And in order to get rid of that hatred within us, we have to lower our pride. We don't always need to be in the top among others. That's not what God wants us to be. I know and I understand that it's really not that easy to forgive, especially nowadays. But we have to try, just like what God did to us and still doing to us to this day. Just like how Ida Graber had did in the movie. Just like what the movie is trying to set in our heart. And that's the valuable lesson that this movie is trying to teach us. This movie has one of the most valuable lessons a person can learn as an individual. It may take a long process, but eventually you'll get to it. Everyone will. And that's all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and give it a thumbs up if you learned something valuable, and I hope I see you guys in the next video. Until next time, peace.
Gold jewelry shining so bright, strawberry champagne on us. Lucky for you, that's what I like. That's what I like. Lucky for you, that's what I like.